Hi, I'm Dave Frabotta. Welcome to the Agribusiness Global Update. I'm here with Dan Jacobs,
Hi, Dave.
and we're talking a little bit about the most read stories of last week and looking forward a little bit to this week. Our biggest read story, with about 1,000 views, is Kleffman's final 2015 data on global sales.
That's right. Global sales in crop protection dropped to $54.6 million during 2015, which is about a 10% drop, which sounds surprising, but it's really not all bad news.
It's not all bad news because demand is still somewhat robust. We're seeing, in nominal terms, because of currency fluctuations primarily, some significant value reductions. But the volume continues to increase, especially in some key markets. Some markets in Latin America and in Southeast Asia, there's still a lot of opportunity for growth, but we're just seeing much slower growth as commodity prices continue to suffer at the lowest point they've been in a few years now. So as farmers continue to navigate that, we'll see a little bit of a price erosion, we think, in crop protection products, but demand is still stable. So that's a positive trend. The other thing we saw this week was Syngenta doing a proactive filing with the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. That's the entity that determines whether or not there's any security concerns with major acquisitions. So they're looking at ChemChina and some of the possibilities and implications of them taking over Syngenta's facilities. Two major things they're looking at: proximity of those facilities to facilities of U.S. security and intelligence facilities, and also government contracts. Doesn't appear to be any significant red flags in either of those areas, but of course this is going to see some fairly robust scrutiny on whether or not it's affecting any of the U.S. security operations or poses a threat to security in any way. So Syngenta is being proactive in that. This is a typical step that any business acquiring or being acquired in the U.S. would go through, and they're trying to get ahead of that ominous regulatory framework that they're going to have to jump through throughout the world, really. And then finally this week we saw something with the FDA and the U.S. FDA now looking to examine residues of glyphosate in our foods. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Back in 2014, the U.S. General Accountability Office rebuked the FDA for not including glyphosate in its residue testing program. They've tested for other pesticides, and a lot of private companies have been testing for glyphosate in foods and have claimed to have found it in honey and breast milk and a variety of other things. The FDA announced just last week that they were going to start looking into glyphosate in food, primarily corn and soybeans. They've allocated $5 million to set up 6 testing facilities, and should be starting that sometime soon. It should be interesting to see where that leads us.
We'll continue to follow these stories and more at agribusinessglobal.com. Thanks for joining us for this version of Agribusiness Global Update.